Welcome back to The Light Within, our series about pranic healing and a little book that I wrote that I'll make available for you eventually. On the last episode, I believe we talked about the role of energetic hygiene in healing, but not only in healing, in other service and healthcare professions where burnout is very common. So it's something that in pranic healing we use from the very beginning, and I always like to use the example that in your pranic healing classes you will always be taught what your technique is, number one, what the purpose of the technique is for, the possible problems, and most importantly, how to avoid making mistakes or causing a problem in the first place, right? So in pranic healing we're taught the right way to do it from the start, and we're taught why pranic healing has the tools and the technology to avoid the problems that other healers have faced for probably many lifetimes, many centuries. If you've watched that movie, I think The Green Mile, there was kind of a crude example of somebody, I think he was having a bladder infection or kidney infection, and the guy who was in prison, removed the energy from that area and it spit it out, and it was like bugs that came out of his mouth. And that can be a dramatization of what it looks like, but in a lot of ways there's truth to that. And now that you know that, or now as you learn a little bit more about pranic healing and what we do with energy, how we interact with energy, you will know that we do remove this energy of disease, but we dispose of it. It doesn't come through us. Some healers will do that. Some healers will like inhale the energy and then spit it out. Some healers will use an egg and they will put it on the part of the body with pain, or run it all the way through the body and then throw the egg away, because the egg can hold on to this energy. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do the energy hygiene side of pranic healing. Today's episode isn't about pranic healing. I just wanted to recap a little bit of that. Pranic healing is, as our teacher, Grandmaster Chokaksui, says, a bridge to spirituality. And we touched on this in a past chapter, but this is really the purpose of what pranic healing is supposed to lead you to. Now, in your pranic healing classes, you are taught to cleanse the area, scan to know where to cleanse, where to energize, and then, like we practiced, energizing the area, right? Now, when the area has lots of prana, the body will heal faster. But there could be other reasons that a person doesn't heal. In fact, in pranic healing level 1, you will be taught the 7 or more reasons why somebody doesn't heal. So pranic healing is not a cure-all for every single problem, because there might be some reasons that someone is not healed. And as pranic healers and as energy healers, even medical doctors, we have to be aware of our limitations. For instance, if somebody has a broken bone, I know that I can help speed up the healing of that bone because I've seen it work in cases in the past. However, if that bone is broken, right, and it needs to be set by a medical doctor, then pranic healing might be good in that situation for pain relief, not to accelerate the healing of the bone, because we wouldn't actually want to do that at that time. So in advanced pranic healing, you are taught when to do healing and when to do what type of healing. And then once the person has a surgery or different treatment, or the physical part of their body has been affected through the interventions that are recommended in allopathic medicine, then the pranic healing treatment can complement that. Now, what are some of the reasons why somebody is not healed? Well, there's a lot of them, but I want today to talk a little bit about character, because this is taught in the very end of almost every single pranic healing and Arhatic Yoga, which is the sister of pranic healing. It's taught in the end of every single class. And I think at that point, sometimes people don't have the ability to absorb all of the information. but you will come back to it. Like I did that. I remembered the teachings and I thought, okay, what's loving kindness and non-injury, for instance, is, okay, I didn't injure anybody, so what's the point of this? But this is, and I promise this will go somewhere. Loving kindness and non-injury is not just on the physical level, right? It's on the verbal level, right? So you can physically hurt somebody, but you can also hurt somebody emotionally, correct? You can say something with your words, or you can act a certain way towards somebody, and it can hurt their feelings, right? We have that term, hurt feelings, and as adults, we don't want to say, oh, my feelings were hurt, but we really should, right? Because that's something that's very true. So loving kindness is not just, and non-injury is not just hurting somebody physically, it could be hurting somebody emotionally. Now there's so many, I mean, volumes and volumes of books could be written on these subjects, but in some of the higher courses, as we call them, or the golden courses, as I heard recently they were called, Pranic Healing teaches that the development of your character is the deepest healing that you could do for yourself. And it's the deepest healing that you can do when teaching somebody how to heal themselves as well. So one of the practices that we have in Pranic Healing is called inner reflection and firm resolution, where at the end of each day, we sit at the end of our bed. Sometimes I forget and I'm laying in bed and I think, oh, I need to do my inner reflection, firm resolution. So what we do is we use an energy technique to, well, first we think of the virtue, as we call it, right? The loving kindness. We think of the virtue. Okay, how did I succeed in the virtue of loving kindness? Oh, today I complimented that person's outfit. It made them happy. Maybe they blushed. It was very nice. Okay, then maybe I complimented somebody. Maybe I was helpful. Somebody at the checkout wasn't able to pay for their full order at the grocery store, so I gave them an extra couple dollars. Okay, what are some things that you can do? Okay, I was loving to my cat. I gave her a little bit extra of her treat. Not too much because we don't want her to get fat, right? This is just some little things, but right, you think about, okay, I did some nice things today. Oh, I did a healing and that person's knee felt a little bit better. Fantastic. So then after you've reflected on the positive quality, then you think, okay, what ways was I not loving and kind? Or what ways was I injurious, or did I cause injury? And you think about it in terms of thoughts, words, and actions. So did I think negative thoughts? Right? Do you remember the experiment we did where we created the anger thought and the love thought, or the happy thought, right? When you create with thought and emotion, it has an energetic form. So imagine if you're thinking negative thoughts all day about somebody, it might actually go to them, to their energy body. And people ask me, what is it that you're cleaning off? Well, that's one of the things that we're cleaning off, other than the energy of pain, discomfort, and disease. We're cleaning off sometimes these emotional or mental forms that you create and send to another person when you're talking badly about them or you're criticizing them. Now, what if you're criticizing yourself? It's going to you. So that's one of the things that we're cleaning off on top of it. So if you have a lot of negative thoughts about somebody, that's a very subtle but valid form of injuriousness, right? As a friend told me a long time ago, I was, repeating over and over something I was really upset or frustrated about with somebody else. And he said, that's not helping that person by meditating on all of this stuff that person said. And recently I was talking to him and he said, I don't even remember saying that. I was like, oh, I do, because it was helpful. That's not helping that person, but actually it could be contributing to why that person ends up with a lot of the same repeating patterns, and yourself as well with your thoughts. Why do you end up with the same patterns repeating themselves over and over again? It might be because of your thoughts and your emotions. Does that make sense? So when we reflect, we think, okay, what did I do to others? What did I do to myself in my physical actions? Maybe I have some physical habits, bad tendencies or habits that are not healthy for me. Okay. Now, maybe I was critical with my words towards somebody, or maybe I kept saying something critical about myself, either mentally or verbally. I'm like, oh, you're stupid. You know how people do that, right? So even if I think about it now, I might have those thoughts, but I won't say them out loud. And if I do, it's, it takes a little longer to do my inner reflection from resolution practice, right? So then we think, okay, what were my thoughts and emotions like towards myself and towards others? Okay. Then we put it all out there, and we use an energetic technique to erase the negative thoughts and emotions. Now, you can do this by journaling. You can write down all of the things that you did that were wrong, and then of course all the things that you did that were good. So journaling is a way that you can do this. And a lot of people do journaling, which is a very, very healthy practice, in the same vein as inner reflection from resolution. So every day or every couple of months, we change to a different virtue. There's loving kindness and non-injury. Then there's accurate perception, correct expression, and non-falsehood, honesty, and non-lying, right? And then there's generosity and non-stealing, right? And then it just, there's a couple more, which we don't need to go into because those are taught in the classes. The purpose here is to introduce you to pranic healing and what it leads you to, which is a change in your character. And it goes down to a concept that I was taught. The way that it was taught to me was that with inner reflection comes awareness. And with awareness comes inner transformation. So if you want to transform yourself, what is this series called, right? If you want to increase the light inside of you, then understanding yourself is a very, very deep spiritual practice. In fact, I would even go as far to say it is the only spiritual practice, right? We have our tarot cards and our crystals and our healing and our sound bowls and all these different things, right? Which are super fun. But what is spiritual about that? Right? What's spiritual about it is if you're using it to help somebody, if you're using it to develop your character, if those things lead you to something that helps you develop yourself or help somebody else develop themselves. So this is what I'll leave you with on this topic. What is spiritual is what is permanent. So I'll repeat. What is spiritual is what is permanent. Think about it. What is something that is permanent? Right? Now, you might go to school and learn something, but you could forget those things. You might learn a technique, but then you don't do it for a couple of years, or a language and you don't do it for a couple of years. Those things aren't necessarily permanent, but sometimes they can be. So try to, think about what is within me something permanent. When I ask myself that, it's the lessons that I've learned, the hard-fought lessons that I've learned, right? In love, in friendship, in self-respect, self-esteem, in all these different categories. Those are the things that have never left me. Now, I used to tell a client who was going through some addiction, when they would relapse, I would always say, they would say something like, oh, all of that progress I made, that 2 years of sobriety, all is down the toilet, right? And even in Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous, they will use those terminologies. It's, okay, you're always an addict and you just relapse, right? But in pranic healing, that's not the approach we take. So I told my client, and it felt like maybe something was coming through me at that time. I told my client, none of your progress is lost. Even if you took a step backwards, you didn't lose anything. That's not all down the toilet just because you took a step backwards, right? There's that little joke that a step forward, a step backward, a step forward, a step backward. It's not even 2 steps backward. It's not regression. It's a cha-cha, right? It's a dance. So that's how we live our lives, is taking steps forward, taking a step back, sometimes taking steps forward and taking a step back. But the idea is for it to always be on an upward trend, so that we're always improving. Even when we're like, wow, this is the worst time of my life, but this is also the most developed and the most aware I've ever been. But compared to your last lowest point, it's a very high point for you in comparison, right? You compare yourself to your past, not to other people, right? So the purpose of telling you this is that true spirituality is a development of character, a development of virtue. And so if you can change your character, if you can become a virtuous person, when you look at the virtues, you will see areas that you already have a certain degree of I would even say mastery over it, right? But when I think of the virtues, and I think of what I've gained from reflecting on the virtues for maybe 14 years now, that as long as I've been in Pranic Healing, that's what has permanently stuck with me. So I can draw on that knowledge, number one, but also I can draw on the memory of when I succeeded in the virtues from the past, and know that it never leaves you. You can take a step back and back and forward, that's fine. But the virtues will really take you to greater heights in your spiritual development. So that leads me into talking about the spiritual technology that we have in Pranic Healing. In the same way as we talked about in previous videos, Pranic Healing is a step-by-step approach. If you have asthma, right, it's a protocol or a recipe. You would do that for anybody who had asthma. It's a recipe. And what's a recipe? You add a cup of flour, a teaspoon of salt, a squeeze of lemon, right? Put it at this temperature, pull it out 45 minutes, and you have a cake, whatever. I don't know what kind of cake that would be, but that's the same way Pranic Healing is. It's repeatable. So that's something that you can do every time someone has asthma. You can use the protocol and be confident that you'll see a result. And as you do it more, you are able to tell your clients or your subjects, your friends or family, oh, I worked on somebody that had asthma and it really, really helped, right? They were able to go from barely breathing to taking full deep breaths. So in the same way that Pranic Healing is a systematic, step-by-step approach, so is our Hatha Yoga. Now, some people, this is how I was when my teacher, actually, I was doing a lot of service for her, helping her with things, so she paid for my our Hatha Yoga class. But I had no interest in it because at the time I didn't like yoga. Now I like all of it, but I'll try anything. But I thought we were going to be getting on the ground and doing the yoga asanas and all of that stuff. And there's a little bit of it in our Hatha Yoga, but our Hatha Yoga is the higher course. It's the course that eventually you go to when you've taken the Pranic Healing classes. It's the obvious next step is the spiritual development. Okay, you've learned how to heal. You've learned how to help other people. Now, how can you develop yourself on a greater level? And another reason that it was developed by Grandmaster Choa Koksui is because people, what did we say before? Master Choa created Pranic Healing based on the needs of humanity. And one of the needs is that people have a lack of purpose. Is that true or not true? Sometimes people lack purpose or vision. I have at times. So our Hatha Yoga will help you develop a purpose in life. So what happens is when people come to pranic healing and our Hatha yoga, a few of us stick around to become teachers and healers and mentors and that kind of stuff, like what I've done. But most of us go back into our normal life and apply the teachings in those areas. So imagine when you go into an Arhatic yoga class, there's going to be people of all walks of life. I've been very blessed to meet people from all over the world and hear the experiences. And I ask a lot of questions too about what life is like in different areas of the world. What would it be like if you worked there? What would it be like if you went back there and tried to do the same work you're doing here? Would you be able to be successful? I ask lots of funny questions. What's the food like? What's this like? What's that like? And it's been a blessing and an honor to meet so many different people. And what happens is that these people, they go back to their lives, but they bring with them the teachings of character and the teachings of our Hatha yoga. So what is our Hatha yoga? And we can go into this later on because it's a big subject, but our Hatha yoga is step-by-step approaches to developing yourself and developing something permanent. It's something that no matter what, you can't lose. Right? Wouldn't that be amazing if you could develop something? Think of something that you need to always buy. You need to always replace it. You need to always get it again. Every couple of weeks you have to replenish your stock. But what if there was something within you, not something physical, but something within you that you could draw upon, that it's just unlimited. You always have it. It's permanently there. Right? This is the take that I have on pranic healing and our Hatha yoga especially, is that it leads you to developing permanent character development. It leads you to do things of permanent value. So why it's exciting for me to talk about this, because introducing you to pranic healing is good, but it takes you to another level. Now, if you look into yoga, you think of yoga and it's the postures, the yoga asanas, right? That is one type of yoga, that's Hatha yoga. Right? But there's at least 7 or more types of yoga, and our Hatha yoga is called the synthesis of yogas. It's taking all these yogas and bringing them together. So there's jnana yoga, which is the yoga, it's mental yoga. So it's not a physical posture, it's a practice or a development of the mind. Yoga means union, right? Then there's Raja yoga, which is, Raja means king. So Raja yoga is a meditation practice. Right? It's not a mental practice, it's more of a stillness meditation practice. I'm making this very basic, but then you have karma yoga, right? Where you do good. It's a service yoga. So a karma yogi their entire life is devoted to service, to helping other people. There's bhakti yoga, where their entire spiritual practice is being devoted to a religion, a figure like Jesus, or whatever in the Muslim tradition, Muhammad, right, and other great beings or great spiritual teachers from past times. A bhakti yogi will reach enlightenment through their devotion to that being, because what you think of repeatedly tends to happen. You tend to become that. So if you really think about the nasty person, you tend to become that person. If you really think about this amazing character that you will become that person. So all of the types of yoga are meant to get you to a degree of enlightenment. And what does enlightenment mean? We'll talk about it more, but it is being filled with light. When your body is filled with light in pranic healing, you heal. When your mind is filled with light in pranic healing, your mental body, your emotional, psychological side of you heals. Right? Becoming a healed, complete person is the purpose of this. So it's not this going to this 4th and 5th and 6th dimension and all these things that we read and hear about. It's a really practical application, like pranic healing. You do this, follow this step by step, and you will get this result. And the result is a permanent quality that will never leave, no matter what you do. So I think this series is going to end up going on a lot longer, and I hope that whoever is watching is getting something out of this. Please leave a comment if you have any questions on character development. Sometimes it's called shadow work now, and looking at your own shadow. Because if you can take accountability for your good, but also the negative things that you have done, you will develop as a human being. And you will gain something, a gift, a power, a capability, a quality, an energy that will never leave you. So in to honor the series, The Light Within, I want you to look into Pranic Healing books and also some of the other books by Grandmaster Cho Kuk-sui, and continue to watch and subscribe to my channel, because I'm going to be talking a lot more about this and pointing you in the right direction to get more information on some of these tools. And we'll go into more detail. This was a summary. For now, hopefully this was a helpful video for you. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Have a peaceful rest of your day.